Hey, we got a gift from the content gods right before this show started about 45 minutes ago. ESPN's Adam Schefter reported that Pete Carroll will no longer be the head coach of the Seattle Seahawks, out as head coach, but will stay on as an advisor to the franchise. Pete Carroll, I mean, goodness gracious, the dude is the second oldest coach in the NFL, 72 years old, or is he the oldest coach? He's older than Bill Belichick, I think.
I thought Bill was older.
Okay. All right, we're gonna check the facts here. Nope. Pete Carroll, older than Bill Belichick.
Wow.
September 15th, 1951 for Pete Carroll. Bill Belichick, April 16th, 1952. We got like 6 months on him. But the oldest head coach in the National Football League, hanging it up. And although he looks young, he does not look nearly as old as his age would tell you. Pete Carroll deciding to step away after 14 seasons at the helm of the 49ers. That's a big note and big news in the world of football. He is the fourth longest tenured head coach at any particular franchise, only behind Bill Belichick, Mike Tomlin, and John Harbaugh. His 14 seasons in Seattle saw 2 Super Bowl appearances and a Super Bowl win. We know how the other one went on the goal line. Give the ball to Marshawn Lynch, huh?
Well, to be fair, he was outnumbered.
Yep.
Outnumbered in the box.
Numbers told you to throw. But Pete goes down as longest tenured coach in Seahawks history, the winningest coach in Seahawks history, coach the only tie in Seahawks history. Isn't that weird? They've only had one tie in their franchise's history.
I'm shocked with how Mike Holmgren coached that team that there weren't 1,000 ties with him.
That's what I'm talking about. And that was 2016. Remember the 6-6 pillow fight in Arizona against the Cardinals? I believe that was a primetime game.
That's right. Is that the same game where both Cam Chancellor and Bobby Wagner jumped over the center to block field goals?
Oh, I think you might be right.
Because Cam Chancellor and Bobby are the originators of that move.
No, they're not.
Yes, they are.
No, they're not.
Yes, they are.
No.
What are you going to say? Kevin Bacon did it?
Yes, but I will also say Troy Polamalu originated that. Okay,
he did it over the quarterback.
Troy Polamalu did it over everybody. He did it on special teams. He did it on the goal line. Troy Polamalu, the pride of Douglas High School. He is the one that did that. That game, it had 4 field goals in it. 2 of them were in overtime. That game sucked. That game was terrible.
That has reminiscence of a Pittsburgh, Oregon State Sun Bowl game that I remember as well.
Yeah, and howling wind, except for that this one was in a dome, so you can't blame the wind. You can just blame football for that one. But Pete Carroll goes down as the greatest coach in Seahawks history. I don't think that is it is undeniable, which means it cannot be denied, baby Billy. And he took the franchise from a place where Mike Holmgren got him to the Super Bowl and elevated that franchise to continually being relevant, right? Holmgren got them there. Then you had that 1 year of Jim Mora. Then it enters Pete Carroll and really solidified the best era of Seahawks football. And now he is going to move on, and all the questions moving forward look at Seattle and they say, where do you go from here? Because what a year to make this transition, because if you are a head coach that you look at the stability of this franchise over the 14-year run that Pete Carroll had, it's pretty damn stable. Right? You've got a good core, but you also have a ton of holes moving forward in this roster that you have got to figure out. Right. Mainly entering this season, and we'll dive into where the Seahawks go and what this means for not just Seahawks, but the NFC West as a whole, kind of the hierarchy of the NFC West now that, one of the long-standing figures of that division is out, and what that means for the 49ers, Rams, and Cardinals as well. But the Seahawks organization as a whole, this is a transitionary period, and when you have a 71-year-old coach, it is a smart move to kind of move on at this point. It did come as a surprise, right? It didn't blindside anybody because there were these rumblings that, hey, keep an eye on Seattle. Keep an eye on Pete Carroll as one of those surprise moves. But here we are just, I think that was about 2 weeks ago was kind of the first real rumblings that we really heard of. Keep an eye on what happens up in the Northwest. People thought Pete would just kind of run it back and keep stewardship of the Seahawks, but he moves on in a time where you need a new quarterback. You're looking at rebuilding your defense because the prevailing thought is you will move on from Jamal Adams at the safety position.
Yep.
Because, boy, he hadn't been happy. Healthy scratches, never good. Never good to have.
Never good, especially when you're paid a lot of money.
That in the back end. In the middle, Bobby Wagner comes back. He leads the team in tackles this year, but you have an aging middle linebacker. Then Leonard Williams. Are you going to re-sign Leonard Williams in the middle of your defensive line? And now you look at offensively. Let's flip over to the other side of the ball. You're still uncertain about what you're going to do at the quarterback position. Your interior of your offensive line was an absolute mess over the course of this season. You have a ton of holes. Look, I mean, think about that. Receiver, you don't have to worry about, but your interior offensive line, your tight ends, you feel comfortable with your running back room if they can stay healthy. But that's every NFL team, if we're being quite frank. And you have all at every single level of your team, defensively and offensively. You've got question marks moving forward. It is time to bring in a new head coach and kind of right this ship with new eyes and a new culture set. But make no mistake, they're going to try to stay in-house. The immediate name that has popped up has been Dan Quinn to replace him, former defensive coordinator.
Right. And as a Seattle fan, I don't want Dan Quinn because I think if you're going to make this move, to me, it is, let's move the franchise in a new direction. And in a new direction, go get a young quarterback. This is the draft class to do it. There are 4 to 5 guys that people are talking about with legitimate first-round grades. Mm-hmm. So if you're going to go do that, go get an offensive-minded offensive coordinator or a head coach and put them into that position. Go out and make a big splash because as difficult as your division is, you have shown in Seattle that you can build a consistent winner. I mean, even when you look back at the Holmgren years, they were very, very successful until the very, very end, right?
Yeah.
So as a Seahawks fan, go after Ben Johnson. Go after another hotshot offensive coordinator. Go after Jim Harbaugh. Go after one of these guys. Don't just run it back, because if you're going to run it back, don't run it back with Dan Quinn. Run it back with the guy who created the system, and that's Pete Carroll.
Yeah.
So if you're going to make that change, go draft a quarterback and be okay with sucking for a year or two. Trade away the old guys or cut bait and move on. Stop being stuck in this. You're going to win 53% of your games. You might make the playoffs. Some years you might miss. It's okay to blow it up and have a year or two where it's bad, where it's rough, because that's what Pete did when he first got there.
Well, if you are a fan of the Portland Trailblazers and the fan of the Seahawks, Jody Allen, Vulcan, Burt Cold, another reset happening with the franchise owned by Jody Allen and the Vulcan Group. The Seahawks will be undertaking a massive overhaul. I believe that Pete Carroll is just the beginning of what this overhaul will look like, and we've got a ton that we've got to get to on that front because, look, we mentioned it. Where did the Seahawks go organizationally from here? The offshoots of that are the NFL draft that is coming up. They got the 16th overall pick this year. They have 7 picks in the draft. They do not have a second-round pick, but they do have 2 third-round picks that are relatively high in the third round. So you have that you will be looking forward to. 7 draft picks, a new head coach, and what is signaling to be an offseason of full sail changes for the Seahawks. We got a ton that we can bite off on this one, and then also, Pete Carroll and his status as a coach, because we just saw Jim Harbaugh win a college football playoff championship. Mm-hmm. Pete Carroll won a national championship at USC, 2 national championships at USC, won a Super Bowl with the Seahawks. Very short list of people who have been able to accomplish that, and Jim Harbaugh will, by most accounts, try to do the same thing, jump back to the NFL and go after a Super Bowl trophy. But where is Pete Carroll in the hierarchy of the football world? Because, my God, you go down the list and you look at some of the winningest coaches in NFL history, and even though Pete Carroll was in the college ranks for a big chunk, Pete Carroll leaves with what are we at here? If you go by win percentage here,
It's like 66%, right?
66%. He goes down as one of the winningest coaches. If you look at guys that have coached, 10 years or more in the NFL, he is near tops on that list. 18 years as an NFL coach, and it wasn't all terrible in New England either. But the 14 in Seattle are the ones that Pete Carroll is going to be remembered by. 586 was his win percentage overall. 170 wins as an NFL head coach. Think of that, 170 wins. That puts him, I think, in the top 15 all time in wins, NFL history.
Well, and then he, you could make the argument he created probably the best
13th
dynasty of the early 2000s in college football until Nick Saban and Alabama topped that, and Clemson and Dabo Swinney topped it, right?
Mm-hmm.
He also, in a time where football has gone, especially in the NFL, has gone offensive, he probably created the best defensive group in the last century. You talk, I guess the 21st century, because I don't know if it compares, because the longevity of the Steel Curtain, the longevity of the Purple People Eaters, right? Those are some great all-time defenses. I mean, the 85 Bears, it was really only 1 year, but that 1 year was so dominant.
I think what we have to do is you have to parse out the world of free agency and the salary cap era of the NFL into two different categories here, because the Purple People Eaters, the Steel Curtain, those days it was a controlled league, right? You didn't leave. You had uncapped NFL, and then all of a sudden the NFL made a model that promoted 500 as being good, right? They wanted the whole league to be 500. They tried to eliminate dynasties. Well,
they wanted parity, yeah.
One thing that they failed to do was eliminate one of the greatest dynasties in the NFL, one that lasted 20 years in the New England Patriots, because Tom Brady kept kicking the can down the road and restructuring his contract. They found a shortcut behind that, and that's what the Chiefs are doing now with Patrick Mahomes, too.
Yeah, just marry a Brazilian supermodel.
That's what I'm talking about. You find that sugar mama.
It's simple.
Yeah, you have to find a smoking hot quarterback to find smoking hot wife who's richer than him, and you're going to be fine.
Yeah, and then just wait, and she'll divorce him after he already leaves your franchise.
That's right.
Perfect.
That's right. Find that sugar mama.
Foolproof plan.
All right.